Hi, it's Paul Arnold here, the stuttering professor, and today I'd like to review this book with you, The Choice Factory by Richard Shotton. And it's another behavioural economics book that talks about the 25 behavioural biases that influence what we buy. And it's a very fine book. And I don't have time now to take you through all 25, so I'm just going to run through a much smaller number of them so you get some idea about what's in this book as a mini taster of it. So anyway, here we go. We see what we believe and we focus on and seek information that reaffirms our existing belief, and therefore we discard and we get rid of all the other bits that we don't believe in. So therefore, if you're trying to do that, what you've got to do is identify who are you most likely to influence. So the people who are out and out rejectors, don't waste your marketing budgets on that. Likewise, people who are very loyalists, again, you already got them. So speak to people who are influential. The next one is overconfidence, this idea that we overestimate all our abilities. And this happens particularly in the marketing advertising world, where we think our brand new campaign is going to be so much more successful than our last one. And the moral of that is stick to an existing campaign that's really working, because the likelihood is your new campaign is not going to be as effective as your old campaign. The curse of knowledge is another one, and we assume people know what we know, and that's one of the big mistakes. And actually they talk about this maximize and satisfy stuff, this idea that most consumers are just satisfied. It's going to be okay if it's good enough. However, a marketer who is so focused on their brand is looking at minute details and getting caught up upon minor bits of differentiation. And the truth is, it goes way above the consumer's head when they're thinking about what type of toothpaste they're going to buy. Number 18 is the pratfall effect, and it's this idea that flaws make us become more honest, credible, and therefore trustworthy. And it's quite brave of a client, but the clients who really do admit their flaws of their brands are actually on a massive winner versus so many other brands who never have the courage to go and be doing that. Nearly half of all our behaviour is actual instinctive, and we don't even think about it. But the critical times that people are prepared to change, often the brands they're going to move to, are at times of big life changes. They're going to university, they're having a kid, they're breaking up, they're retirement. Those are all critical times that you have very much powerful point of influence. Then we move on to 21, which is Veblen goods, and the idea is that the price of something influences our perception of its quality and its efficacy. So therefore, if you pay more for something, you think it's better, and if you pay less for something, you therefore think it's less good. And actually, one of the big problems is that therefore people who are continuously always doing promotions are actually basically redefining the actual perceived price of what a brand should be, and therefore it actually undermines your quality and your perceived efficacy. So therefore you've got to actually not be doing that all the time. Then we go on to the cocktail party effect. This idea that you're at a cocktail party, there's lots of hubbub going on and you don't hear anything because you're feeling it, but then suddenly you hear your name from across the other side and you notice it. And it's this idea that actually we filter out irrelevant information, but actually therefore relevancy is the critical key to cutting through the cacophony of all the messaging that's out there. Therefore, finding insight, being able to be much more personalized within the messaging is the critical thing we've got to do. We blindly believe research. A bit of research comes on and it's 25.4. We think, wow, 25.4. It must be accurate. And it's nonsense. A lot of this research we've really got to be skeptical about. We've really got to challenge it, ask questions, and use a bit of common sense about this stuff and not just blindly stagger from just, thinking that research is this almighty truth, which is blatantly not true. Then we have variability, this idea that, look, behavioural economics is very nice and got lots of good little fun things about it, but it's not the magic answer, it's not the elixir to brand growth. And you'll find it works at the margin level. So therefore, it only influences some of the people, some of the time, in some of the situations. So therefore, we've got to be really careful that we don't think it's going to be the answer we're going to solve everything with. And certainly, you've got to think very carefully about what you're going to use. And the moral of that is you just got to test your way to it. You've got to try one thing and that may not work. You test again until you learn. There's the book, 25. Look, what I would say is it's a very easy book to read, and the beauty about it is each chapter is really well laid out. It gives a bit of the principle, it gives a couple of those classic pop type experiments, usually done with students, etc. And then it then goes into application. So that's a really well structured book, easy to pick up, easy to put down, great to read on the way to work. It is not the best behavioural economics book. Frankly, I much highly rate Thinking Fast and Slow, but that book is a lot harder. You need a corkscrew to get the information out of that, whilst this is really presented on the surface of it. And I must have read 10 books on behavioural economics, and frankly, a lot of this stuff is much the same as everything else. But you know what? If it's the first book you're going to read, I recommend it. Give it a go. Anyway, have a look on my website. You'll find more information about it. I've also published a written summary of this book as well. So have a look, and I hope you enjoy it. That's all for now.